Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sam, and on behalf of Book Soup, I'd like to thank you all for joining us for our special launch event exclusive Q&A with Adam Silvera, here to discuss his upcoming second novel in the Infinity Cycle trilogy, Infinity Reaper. We'll be hosting more virtual events in the near future, and you can learn more about them on our website by signing up for our email newsletter, as well as following us on social media at Book Soup. And you can also follow our Crowdcast page here to get updates directly. Our next event is this upcoming Tuesday, March 2nd, with Daniel W. Moniz and Melissa Broder discussing their new books, Milk, Blood, Heat, and Milk Fed, respectively. And past events are also available on our YouTube channel. So today's event is a special Q&A. Normally I'm saying that the events will end with a Q&A, but this is going to be a Q&A throughout. So we will answer as many questions as time will allow. And like I said, please use the Ask a Question area at the bottom of the screen to input your question. You can also vote on questions that you'd like for Adam to answer. So we will, like I said, answer as many questions as time will allow. And as you already are, please feel free to engage in the chat because that keeps it nice and lively. And also, please support Book Soup. Independent bookstores are very much in need of your support right now. And our authors today, if you haven't already, by purchasing a signed copy of featured books, which you can get a signed copy of Infinity Sun, and then you can pre-order signed copies and personalized only at Book Soup of Infinity Reaper. And you can do that by clicking the green button. You can do that throughout the event. It will not interrupt viewing. It'll open in a new window where you can finish the checkout process. With that said, I'm going to give Adam a quick introduction before passing it off to him. So, Adam Silvera is the New York Times bestselling author of They Both Die at the End, More Happy Than Not, and History Is All You Left Me, and together with Becky Albertalli, co-author of What If It's Us? He was named a Publishers Weekly Flying Start. Adam was born and raised in the Bronx. He was a bookseller before shifting to children's publishing and has worked at a literary development company and a creative writing website for teens, and as a book reviewer of children's and young adult novels. He is tall for no reason and lives in Los Angeles, and you can visit him online at adamsilvera.com. And without further ado, I'm going to turn the camera over to Adam. Thank you so much for being with us today, Adam. It is such a joy to have you at Book Soup. And everyone sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, guys. I so much love to Book Soup for hosting this event. This is very unconventional to ask a bookstore to host an event for a book that came out 14 months ago. It was released January 2020. But I really do think it's sort of like a fun opportunity to do kind of like a pregame, if you will, for Infinity Reaper. So Infinity Sun, as you will all know, is the first book in this series. It is very beautiful. It was very shiny, and it's still like one of my favorite covers that Aaron Fitzsimmons at HarperCollins designed and Kevin Tong did the art for. And yeah, but I am really thrilled to kind of just like see what this event sort of like feels like and to engage with you all in this space. This is my Infinity Reaper is my 6th novel. It is gigantic. It is my longest book yet. And it's the first time I'm not able to physically tour. So, you know, it sucks, but also I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to connect with so many more of you than we sometimes are able to because of, you know, just limitations for traveling and everything. So I think what I kind of want to do is just do a little bit of a run through for what Infinity Sun was about. It's going to be like a super quick refresher, and then I'm going to just kind of answer your questions where I can sort of like weave all this organically. I am on very little sleep right now. If you guys follow me on social media, you understand that I am also on deadline right now. So in addition to having Infinity Reaper come out on Tuesday, I am finishing the What If It's Us sequel, which is called Here's to Us with Becky Albertalli, and it is due today. So like end of day today. Like when you tell me today, it is never this morning. It is always like 11:59 p.m. and 11:59 p.m. my time, which buys me an extra 3 hours from my editor who's in New York. But I wrote like 10,000 words yesterday. I wrote from like 5 a.m. to 5 a.m. I wrote 6 chapters. I have to write 5 more chapters today, which is like completely doable in this like weird manic ability that I've just like developed for myself. But It's going really well, and I'm excited to get this book to you guys at the end of the year. More info on that soon, as well as a cover reveal coming in late March, and it's gorgeous. Like the What Obsessed cover is, the Here's Us cover, excuse me, is gorgeous. Okay, I'm gonna shut up. Well, I'm not gonna shut up. I'm gonna keep talking. It's also so weird, like doing these events where I'm like not in conversation with anybody. So I'm definitely feeling that energy right now. But we're gonna jump in. So Infinity Sun is my first fantasy novel, my fifth book. It was published January 2020, and it follows two brothers, Emil and Brighton. As you guys know, Emil is our chosen one who finds himself with Phoenix powers, and his brother Brighton is kind of the worst. At the beginning of the book, Emil and Brighton are at a... This is fun. I'm like literally remembering the book like as we go right now. And I'm going to do it beat by beat, I think, without cheating. So I don't know if this is going to be enjoyable for anybody, but I'm going to keep going. So at the beginning of the book, Emil and Brighton are getting ready for their 18th birthday, which is kind of like kicking off the next couple of hours. They're attending a street fair for this like constellation. There are magical constellations in this world. And the constellation is called the Crown Dreamer. And it's going to be sort of like getting brighter and brighter throughout the rest of the month. People who kind of like get their powers in this world are known as celestials, and they have like all these like natural abilities. And then there are the specters who get their powers by stealing them from magical creatures such as phoenixes, basilisks, hydras. And Emil definitely doesn't want to have powers. He sees that in this sort of alternate New York that there's a lot of discrimination against like people with powers, and you know the celestials and specters, they kind of make up like 10% of the overall population. And he just, you know, of course, like had those like childlike fantasies like I imagine most of us have had, where you wish that you had like powers. You wish you could just like teleport across the world. You wish that you could telekinetically like summon the remote to you while you're in bed so you can like change the channel or whatever, right? Or like summon food from the fridge, whatever your deal may be. I was like a big fan of like telekinesis and teleportation like as a kid. So those are amongst my like favorite powers. But Emil loves phoenixes. Like that is like his favorite creature. It is also mine. I've had this like phoenix tattoo since I was 19 years old. It was my second tattoo. And it was sort of like a promise to myself to one day write a book about phoenixes, even though I wasn't quite sure just yet like what the plot was going to be. And I was able to put all my love for phoenixes through like Emil's perspective, as well as like create like all my own like breeds of phoenixes that are much different than the ones that you have probably seen in tons of other sort of like fantasy spaces. So yeah, so that's Emil. He's really chill. Brighton is very like fame hungry, very power hungry as well. He you know, he has a YouTube channel called Celestials of New York, which is sort of like my nod to Humans of New York, which was one of my favorite Instagram accounts. And Brighton is also like really, you know, trying to like build his social media presence and everything, because he has like dreams of sort of becoming like maybe like a talk show host or something in the future, where he can like be like the go-to person for like all celestials and specters to kind of like talk about their experiences and stuff, like having magical powers. And because if he like can't have them himself, he wants to be like as close to the action as possible. And so they're at this festival. Brighton's getting some content for his channel. Emil's kind of like uncomfortable with the whole thing, but is hanging around because like they're about to turn 18 together. They're twin brothers, and action starts kicking off. Like this woman who we discover is a specter. She has the stolen powers of like a phoenix, and she is being chased by the spellwalkers, who are heroes of the novel, and including Maribel Lucero, who is one of our narrators, and her boyfriend Atlas Haas. And the fight goes down. Emil's trying to run away. Brighton's like, nah, bro, I gotta film this and everything, because he's ridiculous and is willing to like put their lives at risk for like hashtag content. And they manage to like escape the fight due to the protection of like Maribel and Atlas. But it's very stressful. And then the next day is their birthday. And, you know, much like what we tend to see from a lot of like fantasy novels, especially in the YA space, where like you turn 18 and you get powers, and like that's how it tends to go or whatever. I've always thought that was such like a weird number that we just all sort of like agreed on. So I kind of wanted to like play with the commentary with that a little bit. And Brighton is kind of expecting to get his powers at 18 because that is very familiar to a lot of the stories that he has absorbed. And that day comes and goes. He does not get powers, nor does Emil, and it's really disappointing. And a few days later, though, they are at a sort of like they're attending. There's an election happening in the novel between two people, Senator Iron and Nicolette Sunstar, who is a Celestial running for president. And Senator Iron is clearly anti-Celestial, and he's just like a regular mortal man. And they're at the Central Park like rally in support of like Sunstar and everything, where they come across a Spectre who Brighton wants to interview for his channel. He thinks it would be, you know, the first time on Celestials of New York that he gets to interview like a Spectre of New York. They end up kind of like provoking the guy a little bit, and the Spectre follows Emil, Brighton, and their best friend Prudencia, who doesn't have powers either, onto the train and starts attacking them. And that's when Emil, right when he sees his brother's life being threatened, his Phoenix powers come to life. Emil has the powers of a gray sun Phoenix. So his flames are like golden gray. It's gorgeous. But he's like very shocked by it because Spectres aren't born with powers. They have taken them from magical creatures. So it's really confusing as to like how Emil's like found himself in this situation. And through some investigating and being rescued by the Spellwalkers, we learned that Emil, through the powers that he has as a Phoenix, was actually reincarnated from two different people. And the first being Kaon Maximo, who was an alchemist who developed the alchemy that allowed people to convert from human to Spectre. And then Batista de Leon, who was sort of like, he was the founder of the Spellwalkers, so our heroic group. And he, you know, so Emil's like coming from this place where he has like one sort of evil back life, or like troublemaker back life, we should say, and one sort of heroic back life. And he's now finding himself at a crossroad, like, well, who am I supposed to be in this life? Because Emil does not want to fight. He is like the chosen one who really hates being chosen, and he's like not trying to engage in this battle, which of course is really upsetting to Brighton, who's like, bro, like if I had your powers, like I would jump all over this, right? Like he would become like the face of like heroism essentially. But Emil doesn't want that for himself. He's scared. He has anxiety. He doesn't see himself as a hero. He doesn't want to make a lot of these choices that we tend to see protagonists being able to do. Like I think so much about how in the Hunger Games and other novels or whatever, where like our protagonists are just charged with like kind of like killing like nameless, faceless people and everything. And sometimes that weighs on their conscience, sometimes it doesn't. We know from the get-go that Emil is never trying to like kill anybody. And that's something that I'm playing with throughout the entire trilogy, which is officially a trilogy, where I tell people the greatest victory for Emil would be if he can get through this entire series without killing anybody, you know? So that's something that we're gonna be playing with over the course of the next 2 books after Infinity Sun, over the course of the 3 books, I guess we should say. And anyway, so back to Infinity Sun. We have Emil agreeing to work with the Spellwalkers on the conditions that they give him Batista's old journals that would allow him to sort of like figure out this power binding potion that would sort of like free him from having to use these powers anymore. But until that all comes into play, he will use his powers. But like he is not trying to be a superhero for the rest of his life. Like that is kind of like a nightmare for him. And yeah, so he kind of like finds himself into like training and everything. Brighton is like filming him for content because again, if Brighton's not going to be the guy, he's going to be like the guy like right next to the guy. And Brighton, I love Brighton so much, but he definitely still tries to make this entire experience like about himself and everything. And he very adoringly gives Emil the title of the Infinity Son as well. So it's not necessarily like a destiny title or some prophecy title that was like bestowed upon Emil. It's just a nickname that like Brighton gave him. So yeah. Then Maribel Lucero, a little bit more about her. She is a spellwalker with the power of she can like glide and like levitate, not necessarily fly though. And she's an incredible fighter. She recently lost her parents in 9 months before the book started in this sort of like New York terrorist attack that is kind of coded as the Blackout. And that's where Maribel's parents were killed along with the current leader of the Spellwalkers, Iris Simone Chambers. Both sets of their parents were kind of like killed in this thing. And it's been sort of like a really like suspicious death as well. But it resulted in the deaths of other people, which of course Senator Iron has been using in his like campaign against like Nicholas Sunstar. So Maribel is like definitely still grieving, and her like solid person is Atlas. Like he's the one that really manages to like ground her during all of this. And but yeah, she's super headstrong and feisty, and she is kind of like wants to be the hero, wants to kind of like honor her parents' legacy, but is tired that like how passive being a hero can feel like, and how unappreciated all their efforts have been and everything. People still kind of like view her as a villain, even though she is like saving tons of people and everything. And it's because it's really starting to like crack with her a bit. Then we meet someone named Nessa Royal, who is, as many people know, are very cute and lovable, heartbroken shapeshifter. And he's an incredibly fun character to write, and I want to talk a little bit more about him on the other side of this. But he is a bloodcaster, which is a gang formed of specters by Luna Marnette, who is sort of like the supreme alchemist of the city and kind of essentially the country. And he's kind of like tasked with like doing different things and impersonating different people on to sort of like further Luna's grand design. And but he has definitely like taken notice of Emil, which has been really great. But from there, Emil finds himself like, I feel like I'm about to skip something. I feel like this is gonna be the part where I'm like, shit, what am I missing here? He goes on a mission. He manages to survive. Brighton's there as well. Prudencia's there as well. Then we start moving into like a territory where all our characters are really converging, including Ness. When we get word that like the bloodcasters are working to sort of like obtain this Hydra who has like never been harmed before. And so they all go to this arena where there's like a big showdown, and Ness gets captured by the Spellwalkers because he just gets like, I don't know, hit with a spell, I believe. And back, I can't remember how, I think maybe Emil hit him with like Phoenix Fire. I'm allowed to not remember my book a little bit, but yeah. And Emil starts, and the Spellwalkers start kind of like interrogating Ness, and they wanted to know a little bit more about like what Luna is planning, like why does she want that Hydra? She's just creating like another Spectre or whatever. And Ness reveals to Emil that only to Emil either, because they kind of have like a kind of like slow burn bond, that Luna is planning on creating an elixir for immortality that she's calling Reaper's Blood. And the requirements for that are the blood of a firstborn phoenix, a phoenix that has never been reborn before, the blood of a Hydra who has never been decapitated, and the blood of her parents' ghosts. And all these together will sort of like converge into this like ultimate essence that will allow Luna to create the closest thing to immortality one can have. Like if you try to harm her, she can phase through you like a ghost. If you manage to decapitate her, she will regrow another head. If you manage to somehow obliterate her body completely, she will be reborn just like a phoenix. And they've got to stop her because, and thankfully, there's only a window of time in which Luna is able to work with this. She needs to kind of hit this at the zenith of the Crown Dreamer constellation that I talked about right at the very beginning. And so that's like the last night of the constellation when it will be at its brightest and most powerful. And so Ness, with this new intel from Ness, Emil and the Spellwalkers find Luna at the cemetery where she is like digging up like her parents' ghosts and everything through this like really cool like alchemy thing. Well, I think it's cool. Pretty much everything I've done in this book I think is cool. I think that's like a given. But yeah, and then Emil manages to get the urn, and right as he's being pursued by all the bloodcasters and their legion of followers known as acolytes, he has his phoenix wings like burst into existence for the first time. And they're basically just like wings of fire, not like feathery wings or whatever. And he flies away with the urn. But Brighton's not so lucky because Brighton grabs a wand. This is a lighter. Brighton grabs a wand, and this was not staged, by the way. This is just like the loopiness of someone who has been working from 5 a.m. to 5 a.m. He takes a shot at Luna, and he misses because boy's got no aim. And the bloodcasters like grab him. By the way, quick note, wands in this world are basically the equivalents to guns in our world. I didn't want to write about guns because I was really frustrated by the gun violence, especially in this country. And so I just wanted to give myself a break from writing about guns. So I instead created wands to kind of like serve as those weapons. I get a lot of questions about that, so I'm just put it out there right now. And then Brighton's taken hostage. They beat him up and make him film a video for his YouTube channel that is basically like, if Emil doesn't bring back that urn with those ghosts, they're gonna kill Brighton. So of course Emil's like, I gotta save my brother. And the spellwalkers are like, so here's the thing, your brother's actually not that valuable to rescue. So if we can just kind of just like take the L on this, we know it's hard. They say it a little more like carefully, but you know, Emil's like not about that life. He's like, no, like my brother's everything. Like I'm gonna go save him. So he sneaks away with Prudencia, Maribel, Atlas, and they grab Ness, the shapeshifter. And Prudencia is like also like not trying to go on this mission, but that's when we reveal that Prudencia has had powers all along. And when she was hanging out with Emil and Brighton on some of these missions or whatever, she was actually the reason that they managed to stay alive sometimes, because she has telekinesis and was able to kind of like invisibly protect them with her powers, you know? And yeah, so that's like one of the fun plot twists of the book, and I can talk more about that if anyone cares about that. Yeah, so then they go to get Brighton. There's a big showdown on their roof, and right as they've gotten Brighton to safety, Ness is with Emil, takes the urn, knocks out Emil, and we're like, damn it, we trusted you, Ness. We trusted you, and you just beat the shit out of Emil. So that's not a fun time. Emil now finds himself face to face with Luna, who in Emil's past lives both know Luna, so she kind of knows him. And this is important, Emil has no recollection of anything from his past lives. That ability got fractured. So he's genuinely clueless about all this stuff. And then Ness tortures Emil, which is not fun, with this like blade called the Infinity Ender Blade, which is used to like kill phoenixes like for good if you don't want them to respawn at all. And it can like also do a lot of damages to specters with phoenix powers like Emil. And yeah, so that sucks. Then they get word on where to find the firstborn phoenix. The phoenix whose name is Gravesend. She is a century phoenix, which means that she is century phoenixes are only respawn once every 100 years, and to find a firstborn is especially rare. And Luna needs this one. Like the properties in the century phoenix are exactly what she needs for her potion. So there is like no getting around this. And so they go to the Museum of Natural Creatures, I believe is what it's called, where Emil works at the gift shop. And with the dreams of one day potentially working in the Phoenix exhibit, which is called like the Sun Room, and it's where you get to find out a lot about like different breeds of phoenixes and the Halo Knights and stuff like that, which is also where we get to, and this scene is where we get to meet the Halo Knights for the first time. I hope this is like making sense. I don't know if it is. We get to meet the Halo Knights for the first time, who are these kind of like classic defenders of phoenixes, you know, like they put their lives before phoenixes, like, and they're really great fighters. they get slaughtered. Like, you would not think they're great fighters with like how badly they got their asses beat, but it's also because like the blood casters are so impressive, and they have June, who is important and probably should have been mentioned about like 5 minutes ago or so. She is a specter with ghost blood, and to our knowledge, she's like the first specter with ghost blood ever. And she's also the one that's like responsible for all those deaths that happened with Maribel and Iris's parents back at the Blackout. Like, she possessed one of them. She possessed Maribel's mother, and then all the like crime stuff happened from there. So Maribel's like trying to kill her. She's like, I'm gonna kill that ghost. Like, that ghost is gonna die. I'm gonna make her bleed. And then a big showdown starts happening there. Ness is being charged with like taking Emil to a different location, and he like kind of like whispers to Emil that like he's gonna like take him to safety or whatever. So the showdown starts there. It becomes bloodcasters against them, and then the spellwalkers arrive just in time, as well as with Brighton, who by the way is like really pissed at the spellwalkers because he found out that they were willing to let him die or whatever. And then the moment they found out that Emil was captured, they were like, oh, let's go save Emil, and he's just like, I'm gonna kill you guys. So Brighton's pissed, and like for everyone who's like, oh, Brighton's annoying, I'm like, I think you'd be pissed too if like you found out that you were worth sacrificing. And yeah, so I don't know. I have a lot of love for Brighton. Like, he's actually one of my favorite characters to write, but we'll talk about that. And so they start fighting. They manage to get away with the Phoenix. They get the Phoenix. They protect and the Phoenix is she is still in her egg. And then from there, Emil and Ness kind of like have like a moment where Ness is like, yeah, look, I was like double crossing Luna. I realized like by knocking you out with the urn was like the only way I was gonna be able to save you. And then like by stabbing you with like the Infinity Underblade, that was also gonna be the only way to save you and everything. And but it broke my heart to do so, blah, 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 blah. And Emil's like, cool, yeah, I trust you. And like they had this like really sweet moment where Ness like cleans up Emil and everything, and I'll talk more about that scene because I think there's a question kind of relevant to that. And then I believe it's the top question right now. Yeah, okay. And then from there, Ness is like, here's the thing, I don't want to get caught by like my father. If my father finds out I'm alive, oh yeah, sorry, Ness is supposed to be dead. He was supposed to have died in the Blackout. This is a really important detail. Ness is Senator Iron's son. His name is Eduardo Arroyo. But he changed his name to Ness. This is a really important detail that I cannot believe I missed. But yeah, so Senator Iron believes that like Ness died in the Blackout. Ness is like, I hate that guy. If he finds out I'm alive, I don't know what's gonna happen to me. So I'm gonna use my shapeshifting powers and I'm going to flee while I can. I'm gonna just like go across the world. And Emil's like, I get it. If I could do the same, I would. So like, that sucks. You're cool and cute, but like, you gotta go. And they part. But then right as Ness is leaving, he sees that the sanctuary that all the spellwalkers are hiding in is about to be infiltrated by enforcers who are basically like specialized officers who are trained to deal with powered people, such as like Celestials inspectors. And so then Ness is like, shit, well, that sucks. Cut back to Emil, who is with the Phoenix, Gravesend, while she's hatching and is born for the first time and everything. And that's when all hell breaks loose. The enforcers have like stormed in and everything. And we see June kind of make a move for the Phoenix as well. She reappears magically because, I mean, she's just magical. And it sucks. And she manages to get away with Gravesend. And then this is important. Before this happened, Brighton threw a fit because they were like, hey, you can't come on any more missions. And Brighton's like, oh, screw that. Oh my God, I just skipped over something huge. Okay, rewind, back to the museum where like a showdown was happening. Guys, I just skipped a death. And like, oh my God. So I should have taken notes, but this is more fun and natural for me this way. Maribel tries to kill June. June's not having it. June possesses Maribel, and then she makes Maribel pick up a wand, which looks cooler than this light thing. And while Maribel's boyfriend, Atlas, is floating in the air, she forces Maribel to shoot Atlas in the heart with a spell. Atlas dies, like, on the spot. Maribel's pissed. She's heartbroken. And that's when we discover that Maribel is not just a Celestial, she is also a Spectre. And her Phoenix powers come to existence, and she is the secret daughter of Batista de Leon and Sarah Cordova, who, again, Batista, who was Emil's past life, like most recent past life, and Sarah Cordova, who was an alchemist. And then, so like Emil's like kind of like Maribel's father, like in a way, but like not really. And Maribel makes that really clear to him. But she doesn't just like have the ability to kind of like levitate. She had the ability to kind of fly all along. It just was kind of like her powers like never fully surfaced, so they were kind of like dampened. But now her rage from like Atlas's death and her grief like really brought those powers out of her. That was really important. I cannot believe I almost got to the end of this without talking about that. So Maribel's pissed, Brighton's pissed. They decide to leave the Spellwalkers and go handle things their way, because they're like, I'm willing to get my hands dirty. Are you? And they're like, yep. So they go. Now go back to where I was when the Enforcers come. June takes the Phoenix. That sucks. Ness is like, Emil doesn't know that Brighton has left either. So he's like looking around the whole like sanctuary for him. And then what happens? Oh, Ness poses as Emil to kind of like throw people off like his scent or whatever, so he has more time to like look for his brother. And then we see Ness get shot in the back with a spell by an enforcer, and his glamour drops, so they see that it's Ness, and the enforcers like drive off with him, and we realize that they weren't actually looking for Emil, they were looking for Ness all along. Like Luna let Senator Iron know that like Ness was alive, that she had like saved him, and that his entire political campaign was now at risk, because he built a lot of his like campaign off like the death of his son. And like, well, if your son's alive, then like you don't get to keep kind of pushing that message. So Senator Iron is like trying to become president. He's not fucking around. Then we end with Ness on a boat with Senator Iron on the way to the Bounds, which is sort of like our magical prison. And Senator Iron raises the question for Ness, like, okay, cool, I see that you're alive. Not thrilled about it. Like, I kind of like worked with Luna to help kill you. And Ness is like, whoa, that's a shocker. Like, he was genuinely shocked by it. I said it kind of like, like jokingly. But Senator Iron's like, you can either go to the Bounds, where people will probably kill you with their powers, or you can come work for me. And that's where we end Ness. Then to bring it back to the last three narrators, we're about to get there, we're about to end this. It's Emil, Maribel, and Brighton, who all find themselves at the final showdown of the Crown Dreamer. Emil is like, and the Spellwalkers, they're kind of getting their asses kicked by the Bloodcasters. It's not looking great for them. And we see all the creatures get killed, including the Phoenix Gravesend, who, this is her, kind of, this is like on the cover. So it's kind of a sad cover. It's a gorgeous cover, but like this is representing Gravesend. And then she like gets stabbed like while Emil's like carrying her and everything by Luna. And then Luna creates the potion, but before she can drink it, Brighton and Maribel show up, and Maribel's like whooping ass like with her new Phoenix powers and everything, because like unlike Emil, she is like trained to like figure out powers like sooner. And then Brighton is like using his wand and has a little bit better aim this time, and like straight up told Luna, like, you told me not to miss next time, so he didn't miss. Wand. And then last time I did this, I got like a mark on my nose. I don't know how often I'm doing this, but like it's enough apparently. Then Brighton grabs the potion, and you think he would like dump it right now. Of course, he drinks the Reaper's blood, and that's where we end the book. So that's the end of book one. I thought this would take me 5 minutes to summarize. I don't know why I thought that, but that's your summary. I hope that made sense. I'm checking your comments right now to see if yeah. Okay, cool. You guys all seem like on top of this. This is great. Now I'm gonna start answering some of your questions, and I guess we'll start with like the ones that you were voting for at the top. So this is from Haniel. Who's your favorite character in Infinity Son? Who you identify with the most? My favorite character is Emil Ray. He is our Infinity Son. He's the one I identify with the most. He is a gay Puerto Rican boy who has anxiety and some body dysmorphia, and loves phoenixes, and doesn't think that he would be like the best hero. And I I don't think that I would necessarily excel as a hero either. So a lot of the choices that I make for Emil are things that I think that I would do. I think sometimes Emil is a little braver than I probably would be in those situations, but yeah. From Roa, hey Roa. What's your favorite scene in Infinity Son? Was it always part of the book, or did you think of it while writing? Okay, so this is a fantastic question. My favorite scene, I guess I have two favorite scenes. I love when Emil gets his powers. So when I originally started writing this series years ago, it kind of started off with like Maribel was the main character. Emil and Brighton or Ness like didn't even exist. Maribel was the one with like Phoenix powers, which is sort of like why I still wanted her to have Phoenix powers, like in this series. But then I wanted to like write a story about like a queer boy who's like the superhero. And that's when like Emil kind of like came into focus, and as well as like Brighton and Ness. But yeah, and also in that version of the story, in that incarnation, Maribel already had her powers, and I was just like, one of my favorite things about superhero stories and magical stories is when people engage with their magic for the first time. And I'm always like, what's that moment? And I'm like, what would I want that moment to be for me, like in New York? And I'm like, I think I'd want it to happen like on a train during like a subway fight or whatever. So that's how it happened. So that's one of my favorite scenes. But my other favorite scene is the scene with Emil and Ness towards the end, where Ness wants to help clean up like Emil's Infinity Ender Blade wounds, but he's like feeling insecure about his body, so he asks Ness to close his eyes, and Ness like very sort of like lovingly cleans the wounds for him. And I loved writing that. That was not in the book. That literally came kind of in the last revision. Right before the books became advanced reader copies. And yeah, so I'm really proud of that scene. Trivan, is there a power you haven't explored yet in the series that you want to, or a power you would never write? It's a great question. There's a power that I've been dying to write that I got to write in Infinity Reaper. And it is a very Phoenixy power, and I'm looking forward to you guys experiencing that. My original editor on the series, he loved it so much. It was like among his like favorite passages. And I had so much fun writing them, and I hint at them. I hint at what the power is in Infinity Son. So yeah, like there's a line, and like I don't want to like spoil it for you guys, but I also have like talked about spoilers and secrets and stuff like that. So if you don't want to know what the power is, put me on mute until I put my finger down. I'm going to give you like 10 seconds to get yourself sorted. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so basically in Infinity Reaper, Emil discovers that he has the power to go through his past lives. And we hint at that in Infinity Son when Emil's boss, Kirk, at the museum, like he kind of like talks about like, yeah, people have wondered if like phoenixes can like slip back into their past lives or whatever. That was always a seed for me planting this power for book 2. So yeah. Okay. You get to see really cool stuff there. Spoiler done. I did not answer your question though. I told you a power that I wanted to write, and that I have explored now. I keep wanting to write about someone who's like really like stretchy, kind of like Mr. Fantastic-y, but it hasn't quite worked out yet. And I finally get to write about invisibility a little bit with Congresswoman Sunstar's Vice President, running mate, Senator Shine Liu. She has invisibility, and you meet her in Reaper, and she's cool. But yeah, I think I would want to do like a more like primary character who has that power though. Caitlin, if you can go back and change something or everything about a character, who would it be? Why? What would you change? I don't think I would change anything about the characters. I love the characters. Like I've worked really hard on them, and none of them really presented new challenges for me while writing Reaper. So I think I actually did a really great job of establishing who I wanted them to be, like from the get-go, which helps when you've been working on the series years before anyone gets to read anything. Thank you. Andrew, what is your go-to drink while you're writing? Coffee, tea, smoothie? I don't drink coffee at all. So I had a lot of people tell me on Instagram last night, like, wow, you must drink a lot of coffee to get through that like writing session. I'm like, nope, don't drink coffee. I'm too lazy to boil tea. I love smoothies. Smoothies are like my favorite thing. I love like green smoothies, peanut butter smoothies, almond smoothies. Yeah, so smoothies and water and ginger ale. Ginger ale is like my favorite drink of all time. Alan, what was one of the most surprising things you learned in creating your books? I mean, in general, that like, I mean, I've written, as of today, it'll be 7 books. The process has changed absolutely every time. Like, there's no one book I've written that I've used that same process for the other book. Even between Infinity Sun and Infinity Reaper, like, it just so much changes. And I think that's like really interesting. Nalia, is there a POV you like to write in more than others? If so, who is it? It's totally a mood thing. So with Reaper, I found myself, I have like this really intense outline. I found myself writing out of order. Like sometimes, like Nessa's story is so, it's of course like part of the bigger picture, but it is like really separate from what's happening with a lot of the day-to-day chapters of like Emil, Brighton, and Maribel. Because they all kind of find themselves in their own journeys in some place, but Nessa's sort of like the most removed, that I kept kind of skipping his chapters for a bit. And then I wrote like the majority of Ness chapters like in a huge chunk, like over the course of like a couple weeks or something. And yeah, which is great because then I get to like stay in his voice a little more consistently, and I'm not like finding myself having to like reread the characters previous chapter to kind of like slip back into their voice. Yeah, these are like the little like writing life hacks that you start to develop while doing a series. Do you have a color scheme and title in mind for book 3? I have the title. I love it. I thought we were going to reveal it, but we're not. We're going to, I think, hold on to it to make sure, especially that like it stays true. Fun fact, Infinity Reaper was originally not called Infinity Reaper. It was called, at the very beginning, it was called Bright Death. And then it was called Bright Reaper, which for me, Bright Reaper was like a great title that Brighton would potentially give himself, like Infinity Sun, Bright Reaper. And then I didn't want the title to feel like a spoiler for anyone who was reading book 1. It was sort of like, well, I know the next book's called Bright Reaper, and I know that there's a Reaper's blood here. Kind of seems like 1 and 1 equals 2 for those who do math like I do. And so yeah, so I changed to Infinity Reaper, and I actually love that all the titles just now have Infinity. Like I think it's like a really cool branding thing. I do have a color scheme in mind, but that's a conversation to be had with my designer Erin, who is incredible. And yeah. Sean, do you have any ideal casting ideas you can imagine for Infinity Cycle film franchise? I do not. I genuinely don't. I know that's such a boring answer, but these things take forever to develop, and I've gotten attached to people before for different projects, and it's like now they're kind of like age out of them because things take forever. So I just don't set myself up for disappointment that way. Roa, can you describe what the main characters look like? I always have trouble remembering and imagining them. Emil has curly hair, hazel eyes. He's like a little darker than me in complexion. He's skinny. He wears oversized baggy shirts because of its like body dysmorphia that he's but like fitted jeans. Brighton has recently like shaved his like head down, kind of like short. He has green eyes. Oh, Brighton's dad is dead. Brighton. Oh, sorry. Also, Emil's adopted. Emil and Brighton are not blood brothers. I probably should have. That was the thing I skipped. Remember, I was like, I feel like this is where I missed something. That was the thing that I missed. Yeah, they're not blood brothers. We find out because Emil was reborn in Phoenix Flames. So there you go. I mean, that's like, you don't, if I had forgotten to tell you that, it's very clear in Reaper, like in the first chapter, like it's recap. But yeah, so Brighton has his dad's green eyes. That's why I thought about that. And Emil has hazel eyes like his mom, which is why they always thought there was a connection. Then Maribel has kind of like dark brown skin. She has like a long braided, like, I believe like dark brown, black hair. Like fit, dope fighter. And then Ness has light brown skin complexion with, I think, like amber eyes, and he has like his hair shaved down on the sides with like kind of curly. Cool. And also there's like art on my like feed if you just like go back and find that. Which character was the hardest for you to get when writing? What were you having trouble with while writing this character? think Maribel was tricky at first. She was my first female narrator, but most of my favorite like heroes growing up were women. So it from like the Charmed Ones to Buffy to Jean Grey, Storm, Rogue, Jubilee, Psylocke, Kitty, Pride. I just like the women in my life. Like it's like from my mom. It just like it didn't feel like a gigantic stretch, but it was more figuring out like what's her vibe. And I think she's more Faith than Buffy, I guess I would say. What's the hardest scene for you to write in Infinity Sun? Molly, you've stumped me. I don't know. I feel like everything's just so hard at one point or another. I feel like I have to find my way into the battle scenes a bit, and I love writing them. But yeah, Johnny, say if someone had read none of your books, I know. What are we doing here? Come on, guys. Which book of yours would you recommend starting with? I would say They Both Die at the End, which is kind of like the popular answer too. But I write a lot of like our world with a twist kind of books, speculative novels, including Infinity Sun, which takes place in like modern day New York with like Instagram and YouTube, just with people who have powers. And yeah, I think that gives you like a good sense of like the kind of books I write, like a lot of like heartbreak and queerness and very just emotional reads, and then things but that feel a little bit like off, like world-wise. What was the process like for creating characters? Great question, Hava. Thank you. For Infinity Cycle, before I wrote any character or like any like major primary or secondary character, I always wrote at least 10 details about them, and it could be about anything, and they didn't have to be used in the book, but I just to start helping me get to know them a little bit. And I use this example a lot when I talk about Emil, because Emil, I had that he didn't like Instagram and that he wore baggy white shirts, and those were 2 details in a set of like more than 10, because he's like our lead, so I created more. And I started figuring out like, okay, well, why is that? And I was like, oh, he doesn't like Instagram because people, like a lot of like other gay people, the way they like present their bodies and everything so proudly, and kind of like the way that they talk about like this is what a guy should look like or whatever, really fucked with Emil's head. So now he wears baggy shirts where people can't really like pay close attention to his body, and that's something that I do a lot. Like I wear a lot of like sweaters and stuff too, and yeah, and that's and those were from 2 random details that I kind of like wrote. From Trevin, hey, how do you think characters from your other books would react to coming into powers? I love this. Who would handle it well and who would take advantage of it? I don't think Mateo would, unless Mateo had like the power to like heal or something. From They Both Die at the End. I feel like that's the only way that he would take it well. Rufus, I think, would be into it. Like I think he would kind of feel a little nervous, but would feel kind of like Miles Morales a little bit. I think Aaron would really geek out. Aaron Soda from More Happy Than Not, he would really geek out having powers. I think Griffin Jennings from History They Left Me, while he's like having a lot of his like grief spirals and stuff like that and destructive behaviors, I think he would abuse his powers. Yeah, cool. How did you go about plotting, outlining the trilogy? So when I was writing book 1 and we were presenting the sequels to my publisher, they asked for like, which is standard, like what do you anticipate happening in the next like 2 books or whatever. So I gave me kind of like a couple paragraphs of each, and they weren't sure there was necessarily going to be a trilogy there, so we had kind of talked about it being a duology, but then after writing Reaper, there's just no way that was going to be just 2 books, and thanks to the huge support of all the readers who showed up for Infinity Sign, I'm now allowed to tell like the full story that I originally imagined for these characters. So thank you so much. I'm indebted to all of you. and yeah, but I really was just like staging the arcs of where I wanted every character to be at the beginning and end of each novel, and so many new things have popped up along the way. Like I outline chapter by chapter, and in those chapters I outline like scene by scene. Everything evolves like beyond that. All right, Emma, what is something you're excited about with the new character Wyatt in Infinity Reaper? All right, so Wyatt Warwick is probably my favorite character in Infinity Reaper, like favorite add-on. Tala Castillo is like, she's really dope too. They're both Halo Knights, but as you see, I have a lot of fun writing Wyatt. And my new editor, Alex, like she really loved him as well. And yeah, he's like this like really cute, confident British Halo Knight. And much like Emil, the English accent is like my favorite accent. Yeah, so like, there's a love triangle that sort of like develops from there in this novel. And I remember reading about a lot of like love triangles, but I wanted to write a gay one. So there's a love triangle that is now surfacing between Emil, Wyatt, and Ness. So, but yeah, Wyatt's really cool. Ryan, how have you changed as an author and as a person as a result of writing this series? That's a really great fucking question, because the reception, there was like a lot of like reception to Infinity Son that was not super positive at first. Like people had criticisms just about world building stuff, which is like a whole other conversation. But like it really screwed my head a lot. Like I honestly was just telling some other author colleagues that I think if this had been my first book, I think I would have like given up. I would have written this series and like moved on, done something else with my life. But I kind of took the challenge, like, okay, well, how do I restore faith in some of these readers who have loved all my other books, right? So it's like, okay, so something didn't quite click here. And I think it clicks now with Infinity Reaper. I think Infinity Son is also just like a shorter book, which was intentional on my behalf because I'm a very slow reader and I get really intimidated by books that are this size. But the typical fantasy reader doesn't, And so I think it allowed me to create a book where there's just more opportunities to like breathe. And I love living in like quiet, like human moments like this. So I was happy for that. It's crazy to me that I didn't think that stuff was going to be as appreciated in Infinity Son, and I missed out on it. So yeah. Caitlin, what's one thing you learned about writing that you wish you knew before you finished the book? But writing in like general, or but before I finish this book, it's a great question, and I know that I have an answer, and I just can't think of it right now. I wish I had set up a couple different more notes about the Halo Knights. I would say. Spoilers for the third book. I think there's gonna be a pretty major death. Yeah, I keep like trying to like in my head, I'm like, let's not go there. I think it's gonna end up going there. It's gonna suck for a lot of people. Maybe it won't. We'll see. Ria, are we ever gonna get another super depressing quintessential Adam Silvera book like more happened not history? They left me or they both died thinking soon. Yes, like I know I want to do more They Both Die at the End books, so that's a conversation I used to have with my publisher. And like I already have two really exciting ideas. Like I pitched them to a couple friends and they're all obsessed. So yeah. But that would probably be like 2023, maybe 2022 if I had like a magical writing week. What's your favorite scene that you've written in Infinity Reaper? It's this chapter called Oblivion Night, and it's basically the Aladdin, Jasmine, whole new world magic carpet ride scene, except with a phoenix. I love that chapter, and I also love. There's a different chapter I love as well called Skybreaker and Shapeshifter. Yeah, these are both act 3 chapters. So yeah, have fun when you get there. The world wants to know what's Nessa's sexuality. Nessa's bisexual. Love that question. Thank you, Roa. Is there anything you wish you could tell people about the book that you haven't had the chance to yet or weren't able to include in the book when writing? Yes. I mean, I know that there are. Stare at me awkwardly for 20 seconds while I figure this out. Yeah, fun thing about Prudencia, who, we discover has powers. In the original draft, she had powers all along. And then I changed that because I wanted to explore the perspective of someone who has powers, but wasn't trying to use them, and it created like an interesting dynamic between her and Brighton, who had this like very like will they, won't they energy. Cool. Thank you. Do you have any advice for developing plot or managing several plots in the same book? take a lot of notes and outline ahead of time. Like, yeah. Also, I think, by the way, next like 2 minutes, I'm going to we're doing like a chance to like win some like virtual time with me. So I'm gonna just kind of like lightning around a couple questions, and then yeah. What do you think is your biggest challenge in writing Infinity Son? Biggest challenge was transitioning to fantasy, but also like I love fantasy and I'm glad that I got to do it. Any plans for a prequel about the blackout? Great question. So for a limited time, the hardcovers of Infinity Reaper include a short story called First Base, which is told from Nessa's perspective back when he was Eduardo Arroyo. And we get to experience the blackout like through his perspective. And we also get to see Ness be rescued by June, meet Luna, become a bloodcaster, become a Spectre, get his powers from a changeling, and we get to see why he chooses his name. So that is in the hardcovers only, not ebook, not audiobook, for a limited time. That is probably the closest you can get to the blackout. I mean, not probably, that is. A random fact about Wyatt. He wears a crop top at one point, which I really love because he's just very comfortable with himself. Okay, what is it like seeing live action book trailers? How different does it feel seeing your characters done by the actors? It's really cool. Like, they look nothing like I picture the characters, but what's really fun is that the guy who plays Brighton is the cousin to my best friend's brother's. So he's my best friend's brother's wife's cousin. I was like, how did this happen? It's incredible. So yeah. All right. How do your surroundings impact your storytelling? Have you seen any changes in your writing since moving to LA? I see that I still haven't written a book in LA. And Here's to Us, the What If the sequel, Ben is thinking about moving to LA, and you see how that plays out. So that's a fun fact. And then what do you think your greatest strength is as an author, and how did that translate to writing Infinity Reaper? I think I'm just really honest, honestly. Like I'm a very open book. And I think that translates in my work and speaks a lot to like its rawness sometimes. Okay. Oh, there's so many questions. I am so sorry, guys. I won't be able to answer all of these. We'll have to do like come to like my other events this week as well, and we can talk more about these. How do you come up with chapter names? I'm gonna answer that one from chat. I love that question. Chapter names help give me a sense of what that chapter is supposed to be about, and it keeps the focus on it, because I think it would be so easy to just like write scene after scene after scene and like just sort of like lose yourself in it. And I'm like, no, what is this chapter about? Like, what is like the point of this chapter? What do I want the big takeaway to be about? And boom. Okay, I'm gonna choose one more question. It's gonna be kind of random. All right, this is fun from Allie. Who do you think each of the Spellwalkers plus Brighton would be as Marvel Comics Universe Avengers? Oh, I also chose like a really hard question to answer like right now. I think Brighton would be kind of Loki-ish. I know he's not like an Avenger, but let's just like use the characters. Maribel would be Black Widow, and I don't just mean because like they're women. They just have like this similar vibe, especially with like kick-assness and everything, and confidence. And Emil would be, that's tough. He'd be kind of like, he'd be Bruce Banner. He'd be the Hulk. Like, he doesn't want to like use his powers. He doesn't want to tap into that side of himself. That was perfect. I am so smart. And then arrogant apparently. Yeah. And then who do we have? Ness. Let's do Ness, and I'll end it there. Ness would be. I guess I can't use Loki again. And I don't want to use just like those shapeshifters and like Captain Marvel. That's lazy. Ness would be, I think, Iron Man. Like yeah, I know. They have a couple like similar vibes that I think work for me. I want to sit with this some more. I'm probably gonna like retweet my answers and something else. Okay, so here's how we're doing the win a virtual. Oh, there are no new POVs in Reaper. Sorry, I love these questions so much. I wish we had scheduled this for like 2 hours. Okay, here's how we're doing the opportunity to win like a couple virtual meet and greets with me that will be scheduled between me and my assistant Caitlin later for March. I'm going to write down 2 numbers on this pad right here. As you see, it is blank. You guys are in the comments where the chat's been happening. You're going to put down a number. And if it matches one of the 2 numbers that I have written down, you will win a random chat with me or whatever. It's gonna be like a 10-minute chat, but I'm gonna be offering these throughout the tour week as well. So the numbers are gonna be between 1 and 40, and I am randomly writing down numbers right now. The numbers have been written down. So I'm watching the chats. The first people to kind of like hit the numbers will, oh my God, okay, will be selected. All right, so oh my God. All right, it's moving so fast that I can't see. So you guys have to get your numbers in the next.
Adam, you can scroll up to the top of the numbers, I think. Actually, you could.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, so yes. All right, let's see. All right. Oh my gosh. I also probably should have said like, okay. So I'm looking for. Oh my gosh, some of you are so close, and you're gonna be annoyed. Okay, we have Tristan Evans. You have gotten the 7. So, yeah, I will give you both instructions in a second. And then I'm looking for the next one. Wait, I want to make sure. I'm going to scroll back because I feel like I may have zoned out for a second. Okay, I'm scrolling way back to the top because it moved me. Oh my God, some of you are so close. This is so annoying. I'm so sorry. This is fun. We're gonna do this all the time now. We have a comedian, Shalif, who put 523. Love you, dude. Oh my God, this is, guys, it was between 1 and 40. I'm seeing some 87s and stuff. Oh my God, no one has gotten it. This is wild. Oh my God. I'm still looking. I don't think anyone's gotten it yet. Who would have thought? Sorry guys, like I really, with all these numbers, I swore that someone would have gotten it, right? I'm sure at this point everyone's just putting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
We're also getting more at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm
16,
I'm
27.
still scrolling.
14, 18, 39.
No. Okay, we got it. 28. Analia. Yeah, 28. So, which I don't know if you've seen that right, but it's a 28. Okay, guys. So Analia and Tristan, just email assistant@adamsilvera.com. And yeah, just like put your names and we will schedule this like a nice like 10-minute chat for sometime throughout March and everything. But yeah, so again, it's assistant singular @adamsilvera, my name .com, like .com. So and if you mess up or whatever, just tweet me and we'll figure it out. Guys, thank you so much. I just want to say one last thing. BookSoup is incredible. They have done such a wonderful job with all the pre-order business and with handling like all my books. If you ever want like a signed copy of my books, like BookSoup is the place to go. They are also very generously sending out all the swag, which includes this Adam Silvera book plate, as well as this Adam Silvera support group wristband, which I'm wearing as well. And inside it says like, be more happy than not. And this Emile Lannes print. These are all things that I like had commissioned. And the first 600 people in the US who send proof to pre-order at adamsilvera.com, singular pre-order, will qualify for like an Epic Reads Phoenix enamel pen. And yeah, so, but BookSoup once again is the only place to get a personalized copy of Infinity Reaper. So please support and get your copies of like ordered in before Tuesday.
Yes, before Tuesday. And you can get both at the green button below. This was so much fun. Adam, I know you're so swamped, so thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my
And
God.
thank you everyone for being so active in the chat. You're all so much fun. The questions were amazing. I'm sorry we couldn't get to them all, but thank you so much, Adam, and best of luck with your deadline today.
Thank you so much. Guys, thank you so much. This was so fun. This was such a perfect way to start off Infinity Reaper Week. So thank you, and I will see you guys for the rest of the tour.
Yeah, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a good night.